What happens when a man leaves his wife of 45 years for a younger woman and learns she's his granddaughter? The betrayal was deep, but the truth hit harder than anyone expected. What she did next? It left a courtroom and a family in absolute silence. You ever wake up thinking today's gonna be special? That was me. I woke up at 6 a.m., just like I had for the last 45 years. And not because I had to, because I wanted to. I was about to celebrate 45 years of marriage with the man I gave my youth to, and my back, and let's be real, even my credit score. First thing I did, started on my lemon pie. Not no box nonsense either, the real thing. Flaky golden crust, smooth vanilla cream, zest straight from my backyard tree. That's the pie Ronald would walk across hot pavement to get. I used to joke that if I ever stopped baking it, he'd call 911. I put on my old record player, James Brown, of course, and got to dancing around the kitchen in that white dress. Yes, that dress. The one with lace and that delicate stitching up the front. It didn't zip up all the way anymore, but baby, I still looked like the kind of woman folks write love songs about. By 6 o'clock, the table was set, candles lit, pie cooling. By 7, I started checking the clock. By 7:15, I texted him. At 7:29, I got a message.
Not coming. Need time to think.
Excuse me? This man, the same one who once thought a lottery ticket with a hole in it was a sign from God, now wanted time to think? I stared at that screen like the punchline was coming, like somebody was about to jump out and yell, "You're on a prank show, Mrs. Watson!" But nobody came. This wasn't a joke. This was my marriage, cracking apart like old glass in the winter. The next morning, he showed up. Didn't even glance at the candles or the pie that had sunk in the middle like my heart. He walked in like it was just another Tuesday and started packing his things. Calm, cold, like he was checking out of a hotel he'd stayed in too long.
I just don't feel alive with you anymore, May.
I let out a dry little laugh. So what, are you with her? A vampire? He looked at me, not with love, not even with guilt, just emptiness.
She gives me energy. You don't understand. You've gotten too quiet.
Too quiet? This the same man who couldn't sleep unless I was fussing at him about his snoring? Now all of a sudden silence bothers him? How old is she? I asked, blocking the door.
That's not important.
Oh, so she's young enough that it's embarrassing to say out loud? He didn't answer. He just grabbed the jacket, the one I bought him last Christmas, and walked out, slammed the door like he was closing a chapter I hadn't even finished reading. And there I was, standing in the middle of a room full of memories, the curtains we picked together, the wedding photo on the mantle, the rug he spilled barbecue sauce on in '98. But now, that room didn't sound like life anymore. It echoed, like a church after the choir stopped singing. What happened next changed everything. And trust me, you don't want to miss what went down. Because this ain't about pie anymore. This is about secrets buried for 20 years, coming back like a storm. And baby, when it hit, it shattered everything. You know what's worse than being left after 45 years of marriage? Seeing who he left you for. My phone rang that morning like it had attitude. I picked it up and heard a voice I hadn't heard that high-pitched since the church fish fry in '03.
May? Baby, you sitting down?
I'm lying down.
Well, stand up. He's at Maple and Soul, and he ain't alone.
That was Shirley, my best friend since high school and the unofficial gossip department of 43rd Street. And when Shirley calls, sounding like she just caught the devil stirring soup in her kitchen, you listen. I didn't cry. I didn't curse. I didn't even flinch. I got up, pulled on my best church coat, wrapped my head in a polka dot scarf, and slipped on my favorite lipstick, a deep red that says, "I may be heartbroken, but I will not be ignored." I didn't dress for him. I dressed for me. So when I walked into that cafe, I didn't sneak in like some scorned woman from a soap opera. I stepped in like I owned the place. And there he was. Ronald, my "I don't feel alive around you anymore" husband, grinning across the table like he just invented romance. Sitting across from him was a young woman, one of those real shiny types, skin like butter, nails like glass, dress short enough to double as a belt. The kind of woman who probably thinks seasoning is just salt and pepper. I didn't flinch. I didn't run. I walked right over. "Good evening, Ronald." He nearly dropped his fork. She looked at me with one of those forced customer service smiles.
Oh, are you his mother?
His mother? Whew. I didn't get mad, not right away. I laughed, low and calm, the kind of laugh you only hear when a woman is 3 seconds from flipping a table. "No, sweetheart, I'm the one who paid for his medical bills, his dentures, and that jacket he's wearing like it was earned. That makes me his wife." I turned to him. "Right, Ronald?" He opened his mouth, but only managed a weak little murmur.
Me? Why are you?
Why am I here? Because you forgot. You forgot who sat beside you when the hospital lights were the only thing you could see. You forgot who changed your sheets when you couldn't stand. And now you're sitting here like our life was just yesterday's newspaper, ready to toss out with the trash. The girl didn't say a word. He didn't either. So I left, with my head held high. But baby, when I got outside, my knees buckled. I sat right there on that bench outside the cafe. No fuss, no drama. Just sat and let it all catch up. I didn't sob. I didn't scream. I cried like women do when they've survived too much to cry out loud. A woman in a yellow coat passed by. Never seen her before in my life. She looked at me, paused, and placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. And then she said,
Honey, if a man can throw away gold for glitter, let him choke on the sparkle.
And right there, I wiped my face, took a breath, and stood up. Because that wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. What you just heard, this isn't drama. It's a warning. And believe me, this story will hit you right in the heart. There will be a name, a face, and a photo that will shatter every illusion forever. You can't miss this. Some days, you just want to sit back with a hot cup of tea and watch somebody else's family fall apart on TV. But that day, the drama came for mine. It started at the bank. All I wanted was to renew my card, pay the gas bill, and maybe, just maybe, buy myself a new pie dish. But life had other plans. This wasn't about pie anymore. This was about secrets and somebody playing games with my name.
"Mrs. Watson,"
said the young woman behind the counter, not even looking up from her screen.
"your account is now listed under 2 names, you and Andrea E. Johnson."
Andrea who? I squinted, leaned in. Excuse me, I don't have a sister named Andrea, and I sure don't share money with anyone except Jesus, and even he doesn't touch my savings.
"It may be a mistake. Would you like to see the signature?"
Would I? Honey, I wanted the signature, the address, her social security number, and her kindergarten report card. But I smiled.
Yes, let's start with the signature.
She printed the paperwork and slid it across the counter. And when I saw the name, it hit me like a slap in slow motion. Andrea. Not just a name, a ghost. I had a niece, Janelle, sweet girl. But life folded her up like a grocery list in a back pocket. She had a baby at 19, Andrea. Then came the spiral. She disappeared. The child was taken in by the system. I tried to find her. Lord knows I did. But the system talked to me like I was just some woman off the street. That was 20 years ago. I went home, climbed up into the attic, and pulled out my old photo album. Not a cloud folder, not a touchscreen gallery. I mean the real thing. Dusty leather, cracked corners, smells like Sunday mornings and family secrets. Page after page, and then there it was. Janelle holding Andrea, a tiny baby in yellow with a birthmark on her collarbone. Dark and crescent-shaped, clear as daylight. My hands were shaking when I pulled out my phone. I opened that photo I'd taken at the café, the one where Ronald was holding that young woman's hand like it was his last lifeline. I zoomed in. Same shoulder, same shape, same mark. My heart started pounding so hard I thought the walls would echo it. And if I'd fallen right there, well, let's just say my old rug wouldn't have caught me. It was about as worn out as my faith in people. I didn't want to believe it, but I did. Every piece clicked into place like a puzzle I'd never asked to finish.
And just to push myself over the edge, I picked up the phone and called Pastor Stephen. Not because he's a saint, but because he knows every soul in this community, even the ones who drifted off the path. Pastor, do you remember Andrea Johnson, Janelle's daughter? There was silence. The kind that hums. The kind that lasts too long.
You found something, May?
He said, low and careful. I found more than I ever wanted. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay there, eyes wide open, watching the ceiling like it owed me answers, and my mind kept running in circles. If it's true, that means Ronald is with his own granddaughter. If it's not, then I'm still alone, still betrayed. And I still don't have access to a bank account with my name on it. So either way, both roads led straight to heartbreak. Feel that thick air in your chest? That's the weight of truth knocking. And in the next chapter, it doesn't knock. It bursts through the door, in public, face to face. This is it, the moment everything shatters. Don't miss what comes next.
You ever walk into a room knowing people are gonna look at you different? Not because you're dressed wild or loud, but because you're walking in with the truth. And the truth smells stronger than bad fish left too long behind the kitchen door. That was me. Walking into Maple and Soul, the same restaurant where Ronald once asked me to marry him between a plate of mac and cheese and a glass of sweet tea. Only this time, he was offering something else to someone else. I stepped through that door like I was stepping onto a stage. Wool coat with the fur collar, scarf I wore to his mother's funeral. Oh yes, I kept it. And those old black boots that still clicked like a warning shot on tile. And there they were, by the window. She was laughing, loud, high-pitched like a child on Christmas morning, and he looked at her like she was a one-way ticket to a better life. Only, that ticket, it didn't come back around, and it was headed straight for disaster. I didn't wait, didn't cough, didn't say, "Excuse me." I pulled out a chair and sat at their table. He froze.
She blinked confused. Excuse me? She said, all sweetness and confusion. Ain't nothing to excuse, baby, except the fact that you're holding your grandfather's hand. You could have heard a pin drop. He stopped breathing. She dropped her smile. May, not here. Where, Ronald? In the parking lot? At church? Or maybe back home where you used to keep your dignity? I reached into my purse, pulled out the photo, held it up, held it firm, held it like a weapon of love turned truth. This is you at 2. See that little mark on your collarbone? Look down, tell me it's not still there. She looked, then looked at me, then at him. Wait, you didn't know? She asked, her voice cracking. He sat there like stone, like the kind of man who just had his legacy ripped open in public.
She said she didn't have family.
He muttered. And you believe that? Without asking? Without checking? I leaned in. Do you check anything, Ronald, other than your blood pressure? She jumped up, knocking her chair sideways, hand over her mouth. She ran toward the bar. People started turning, whispers, phones raised. One woman covered her chest like I'd just read a curse out loud. But I wasn't ashamed. Let 'em watch. Let 'em see that not every older black woman just smiles and takes it. Some of us fight back with facts. Ronald didn't move, didn't blink.
May.
He finally said, barely above a whisper, "Don't may me. Not like that. Not like I'm your wife. Not like I'm your friend. Because you gave all that up." I stood, slowly, let the weight of my presence fill the air one last time. And I looked them dead in the eyes. I'll see you in court, with documents, with truth, with God. And you better bring a good lawyer. And I walked out that door without crying, because tears are for people who still have hope. And I wasn't hoping for Ronald anymore. I was hoping for me. This was it, the storm, the crack, the reckoning. But baby, the story ain't over. The final chapter is where you see what happens when a woman rises up with nothing left but her name and her truth. Don't miss it. 2 days later, my phone rang. It was a voice I hadn't heard before, slick and oily, like butter on a cold skillet.
Mrs. Watson?
He said, all official and polished.
Mr. Ronald Watson has filed a petition to dissolve the prenuptial agreement. He's also requesting a freeze on your shared assets.
Oh, really? The same man who couldn't work the microwave without burning oatmeal now suddenly knows what assets are? You tell him, I said, steady and clear. If he wants to freeze something, he can start with his face. Because after what he did, he got no business showing up anywhere warm. Then I called Tavon, bright young attorney from my church. Same one who helped us years ago with the paperwork for our garage. And now he was about to help me tear down everything Ronald tried to steal.
You're fully protected, Mrs. May. We've got the documents, we've got the timeline, we've got the truth. And I'm not just going to defend you, I'm going to make sure he ends up paying for your next pie business.
A pie business? Now look, I didn't know I wanted one before, but apparently now I do. Then, about a week later, Andrea showed up. Not as a girlfriend, not as some secret scandal. She came like something else. Like a child who'd been forgotten.
I'm sorry.
She whispered at my door, eyes full of shame.
I didn't know. I didn't know who you were. I didn't know who he really was. I was looking for love and walked into something I'll never unsee.
I didn't slam the door. I didn't shout. I opened it. Not because I'd forgiven everything, but because she was a victim too. She was family, even with scars. We sat down, had tea, and for the first time in decades, my kitchen felt like home again. I told her about Janelle, her mother, how she used to laugh loud and dance barefoot in the living room. Andrea just listened and cried and held my hand like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. And in that moment, the house wasn't empty. It was warm. Not because of who left, but because of who stayed. As for Ronald, court came and went. He didn't show. His lawyer tried to settle. I said no, not because I wanted revenge, but because I don't put a price on my truth, not even for his full retirement. And now, I live alone, but it's not loneliness, it's peace. I walk through these rooms without tiptoeing around his silence, because now, that silence belongs to me. That white dress, the one I wore when I thought forgiveness made me strong, still in the closet, but it hangs like a relic, a reminder of the version of me that used to say, "It's okay," when it wasn't. That version is gone. And the woman standing here now, she's not begging for love. She's building her own life. And you know what? I like her. I like her a lot.